Once again, I'm humbled to be in your living room, in your dining room, or wherever you are watching 96 West live here at 160 Victor Street, Watkins Broadcasting. I'm your host, Burgess Foster. This is a channel in which we have styled a community conversation. Today in the studios, we were supposed to have with us live right now Martha Scott. I just saw her last night at another forum. I think she may be just running a little bit late. Yes, and we're live right now. And so we're waiting on Martha Scott to come in. If she's running a little bit late, it'll be okay. We're going to talk a little bit about Detroit history today. And so I was looking at the annals, the records for the city of Detroit, just kind of looking at past happenings in the city. And the first lady of the elections is now coming onto the set live. Martha Scott is with us. And so we're going to talk a little bit about Detroit, Metro Detroit history. And we're going to have one of the historians of our era sit with us today, none other than Martha Scott. Martha G. Scott, and a G stands for the gentle lady from Highland Park, as if you didn't know. Today, this is a special occasion, an auspicious occasion. This is the first time in the history of 96 West that we're going to rename the show. Today, this is the Martha G. Scott Show in honor of Martha G. Scott. So we're going to talk to her a little bit about her life, maybe about some happenings, maybe try to impress her a little bit with my history of Detroit. May mention a few things that she may not know, but I'm going to really have to dig deep to do that. So you just stand by and get ready for none other than the First Lady, the gentle lady of Highland Park, Martha Scott. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, I've been sitting up there waiting on you.
Oh, really?
The person didn't know that you were back here.
Wow, they didn't even know that I was back here. Wow. Well, you know what?
Hadn't come up
Well, you know the old saying, Martha, the show must go on. The show must go on. And so, Martha Scott, I wanted to ask you, are you familiar with a gentleman by the name of Charles Anthony Roxborough?
From
First African American
yeah,
state senator from the city of Detroit in the
the
1930s.
Roxboroughs from Detroit.
Yes.
I've heard of them, but
The Idlewild.
not know a lot about.
Well, this gentleman, Mr. Roxborough, they say spoke French and Spanish. He was an attorney. He actually helped found the Phi Alpha Gamma Lambda fraternity
Okay.
over on Watson Street.
Okay.
One of his business partners back in the day was a gentleman by the name of Watson. And, you know, as I read the story about Roxborough, I saw some familiar names pop up like Norwood Street, or I saw the name of Governor Osborne mentioned, Osborne High School. And then I start to realize that, you know, these were some of the people for some of the streets that are named. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Highland Park history. And right now, you said you went to the school that is now that is closed down now, but the high school, was it Highland Park Community College?
No, it was Highland Park Junior College.
Junior college, and you said it was free.
2 years.
Right. So this whole idea that education, post-secondary education, cannot be afforded or be free is just a farce.
Of course it is.
Yes.
You just put the money there.
Well, correct. You got to put some money there. Is that right? Well,
It
you
was
heard
Mr.
her.
Ford that built this town, and he wanted his people to be educated, so he made it possible.
And which street did you grow up on for high school?
Cardone.
Oh, Cardone. I lived on Russell Street. This
Is
is
that right? The
two
next
blocks.
street over.
Yeah,
No, it
that
was
no,
next
the
street.
very next street
That's
over.
right.
That's right, Cardone and then Russell.
That's right.
My grandmother raised me, and we stayed at Russell and State Fair.
Okay.
My sister attended Marshall,
Okay.
right there. We stayed right in front of Marshall.
Okay.
You lived at Cardone and
I lived in Highland Park on Cardone.
a little bit further down. I see.
I lived between Woodland and Connecticut.
Wow, Cardone, like St. Albans, runs all the way.
Yeah.
Well, I know St. Albans runs right across Jefferson. Cardone, it runs right down there, right through, is the old Black Bottom. Now, when the freeway came through, before they built the Davison. She remember that pretty clear.
Before they built the Davison? Oh, you mean rebuilt it?
Oh, well, rebuilt it. Because I was told that they displaced a lot of blacks in order to build. I'm sorry, 75. I'm sorry,
Right, it was
not Davis.
75, right.
75, wrong freeway.
Right.
I'm 96 West, and I'm thinking about 75 North, and I've got Davison on my mind. So when they built, oh, absolutely. So when they built I-75, was there a big protest from the African American community at that time, as you recall?
I don't know if there was a big protest or not, but it disenfranchised a lot of our businesses in that. And some people, wanted to move away, but we see now that it was better to remain there. Okay.
Oh, I see. Now, what are some of the businesses that you recall that were listed in that area that you recall?
Oh, wow.
Go ahead. Go back down memory lane.
Well, Sonny, he had a number of businesses down there, nightclubs and restaurants and stuff, and the Flame Show Bar was one of them. It was all kind of cleaners. We had everything, the stores, all of them.
Do you
I
remember
didn't live down in that area.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I,
But you
I,
knew
I,
about the area.
well, of course, we all knew about
Right.
it, because you would frequent it,
Okay.
from time to time.
Yes.
Yes. Hmm.
And what were some of the larger churches in that area at that time?
Well, as you know, the oldest church is right there on Adams, Second Baptist.
Yes.
Yes. In fact, they have the Underground Railroad there. Have you ever been through there?
Yes, I have, but I
Okay.
didn't know that they were located in another location besides where they are now on
Well, that's
Monroe.
where they are, but I consider all of that down there.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's all been, rebuilt and stuff.
Okay. And do you recall when is the first time you recall meeting Coleman Young? Your first time meeting Coleman Young, our late great mayor.
I think it probably wasn't until I was a precinct delegate in 1972, because we were active, in the district. It was called the First Congressional Democratic District at the time,
Okay.
and Buddy Battle was the chair of it.
Yes, the first congressional district. That was a district that Diggs ran out of. Is that correct?
No, he ran out of the 13th Congressional District on the east side.
Initially.
I believe so. I don't know his total
Oh,
history.
I got you. I got you. Okay, I understand. I understand.
I'd have did a little research and brought my memory back if I'd known that this is what we were going to talk about.
Well, that's all
But,
right. Well, just some of the things that you recall, because I heard you say just last night how Shirley Chisholm inspired you.
Yes, she
and
did.
these are
This
historical
was
events,
a national woman, all
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
and became a member of her organization.
Awesome.
In fact, just the other day, I was looking through some things and found my card that she signed.
Wow.
It was myself, Elsie Dwight, who was probably the first black woman bailiff for the city of Detroit, and the great Irma Henderson,
Yes,
the
yes,
Honorable Irma Henderson.
yes.
The three of us went down to Atlanta, Georgia, Spelman College. That's where we had our first meeting at. Shirley Chisholm, and people from all over the country, but we were the three from Michigan.
I tell you, when I read the book Unbought and Unbought and Unbossed, I was hooked from that point on. I had never read such a illuminating insider's perspective on black politics in my life. And she didn't hold them up, as they say. She called them out by their name, told you what they said, what they did, and she said that she just could not be bought or bossed.
Her back didn't bend.
Her back didn't bend. Bloody but unbowed, right?
That's right.
Is that the old saying? Now, when she ran for the presidency in 1972, later on, I believe, and that's when Coleman Young got in office, shortly thereafter that, as our first African American mayor, right around the same time, 72 to 74, right around that same period of time.
Probably.
Yes.
Was.
Yes, and then at the time, what was the gentleman's name who was the first African American on the city council? Was it Dawson?
No, I don't believe it was Dawson. It was he also worked
Robert?
at Michigan Bell.
Yes.
Um, right now his name
Is it
escapes me.
Robert something? Is it first name?
I don't think so.
Yeah, but it was in 1954. He's also on the city council, and then Nick Hood Senior, the late Nick Hood Senior, he was on the city council. Later, rose to pro tempore in our city's history at that time, and then the our first African American mayor. What are some of your memories of, say, the late Clyde Cleveland?
Well, Clyde and I were friends.
Yes.
I thought he was a wonderful man. Uh, he was really into really changing um, how young people thought about themselves and that, you know. I was trying to think of this saying that he had about a about uh, their educational thing that I don't know. He had a saying about a hat on your head, a 10 cents or something, you know, head. But anyway, he was. I thought he was an excellent person who left us too soon. Also, you know. But
Now, I'll tell you an interesting story. I have a Clyde Cleveland story.
oh,
So I'm attending a school called McFarland on the west side. Must have been on Living Littlefield and Tyreman. And I lived on Pinehurst Street. Two doors down from me was none other than Clyde Cleveland's residence.
okay,
And so I lived two doors down from Clyde Cleveland as a kid in elementary school, not really realizing the full import of his personality and how close he was to my household. And we stayed there a few years, a number of years, and then stayed on the council for as long as he did. And so that was my memory of Clyde Cleveland, even as a kid. You know, I lived on the same block as he. He was always nice, and my grandmother, of course, who raised me, she would talk to Councilman Cleveland from time to time, and that was my memory of him at that time. Uh, and then during this period in the 1980s, you became the first female mayor of a Michigan city. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Right, and that was in 1980,
1988.
1988. So you already in the annals of Michigan history just for that simple accomplishment, becoming the first mayor. And I'm sure there's probably been some mayors since then. And you were also the very first African American female to serve on the Civil Service Commission, or the chair of the Civil
First
Service.
and only so far.
First and only to ever serve as the chairperson
I
of
was
the
not the chairperson, I was the vice chair.
vice chair of the Civil Service Commission.
Right. It was a three-member board,
And that's at the county level.
county level. Yes.
Yes.
We were the third largest county in the nation back then.
Wow. Yes. Wow. That's, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are just tuned in to 96 West, where we're talking to none other than Martha G. Scott, the first gentle lady of Highland Park, the former mayor of Highland Park, former city council president,
President. Yes.
president of Highland Park, former state senator, state representative, current county commissioner in District 3. And you have your coffee hours on at what time
Every fourth Monday morning
and where?
at Main Street Restaurant in Hamtramck.
Okay, okay. Now, your District 3, does it include other communities outside of Hamtramck?
All of Highland Park, all of Hamtramck, and the east side portion of Detroit.
Okay. And then when you had the state senate, you had the Grosse Points.
I had from Linwood to all the Grosse Points.
Awesome. And then it's a state rep, the same.
Well, the district wasn't quite as large. I didn't have the Grosse Points as a state rep.
Only Highland Park and a portion of Detroit.
Highland Park, Hamtramck, portion of Detroit. I have basically had the same district since I have been elected statewide.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
as a former county commissioner, this is my second time at the county.
Yes. Some folks are probably wondering why you're not the county exec by this time.
Well, I didn't choose to be the county exec.
Well, folks
That
know,
wasn't my mission.
and folks know that if you decide to run, you don't lose. You haven't lost an
Well,
election in about 30 years, have you?
well, I don't know. I don't count.
Okay, then. With other
I'm
folks know.
just there, and I know that when I'm elected, I know that this is my mission to serve, and
Yes.
that's what I do. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Now, what is your last night you spoke? And you could probably update the folks who on Channel 91 here at Comcast. You tell us your thoughts about the jail, the
I said
county.
I would like to have see the jail just where it is so that we can move forward.
Okay.
And we don't need a larger jail because we need to start doing some things to help our kids get a better school system, to
Yes.
educate our people,
Yes.
rather than leaving them on the corners out there so that they will go to jail and to prison.
Yes. Okay.
We
That's
have to
yes.
demand some things.
Absolutely. 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 So, is there any completion dates in mind about the jail?
As I said last night, that no, we don't have any completion dates, but we will be taking some action probably next Thursday.
Yes. Okay. All right. That's you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Martha G. Scott, a member of the County Commissioners in District 3, updating you on the jail and her thoughts about the jail, that she would like to see the jail stay where it is so we can move forward. And then we need to just start working on improving our educational system so that we can keep the kids out of the pipeline to prison. We really, as an educator, I know about the importance of education, and that's why I'm a big proponent of adult education. I know you left and didn't get a chance to, hear some of my comments that I made last night. However, I'm a
Well,
big proponent
I
of
did
adult
hear your
education.
first one.
Okay, but on adult education in particular. Now,
No,
my
I didn't
thoughts.
hear it on adult
Yes,
education.
adult education is so important because I found out that most of my students' parents at my school didn't have high school diplomas and couldn't help their children do their fifth grade homework. As you would know, the show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? The work has gotten harder. Fifth grade students are now doing pre algebra. I don't recall doing pre algebra when I was in fifth grade, but they're doing pre algebra, and then some of them, with some of their science projects, are doing some advanced science.
Well, things have changed, and that's why we have to have folks mentoring these children and that to help them. All of our parents were not able to help us with our homework, but they made sure that there were libraries and things and places that we could go, and in our neighborhood that we had the educators were there.
Yes, and our libraries are closing, or they're truncating the hours. Just on 7 Mile there at the Russell branch and at the Sherwood branch, they're cutting back the hours. The library in Highland Park, the McGregor Library. I remember going to the McGregor Library as a kid, and I thought Mayor Andre Wyndham was going to open it. I thought Mayor Yop was going to do it. He's reelected. Is there any ideas about reopening the McGregor Library there in Highland
Well,
Park?
there's always ideas about opening it, and at one time I did have a lady from Grosse Pointe who were really interested in it, but we just wasn't able to work together for her to get a cost on it, how much it was going to cost, because she believed in libraries. But she's gone home to glory now, so but
Yes.
it takes some dollars, and there are some people that have been looking at it. I'm not on the city council or the mayor, so I don't know all the things that are happening there at the library.
I just wish there was something that we could do, maybe even at the county level. Maybe ask the county exec maybe to put something in the budget specifically for that, if it's possible. I mean, I'm from the old school that we have not because we asked not. I know we've asked a lot, but sometimes there was a story in the Bible of a widow woman who just kept nagging at the man so much that he said, "Let's finally give this woman what she wants because she's getting on our nerves," in so many words. And so, the McGregor Library is so important. Again, I remember walking to the McGregor Library from Lumpkin and Davison, right at Goddard and Davison. You know where that is. So we would meander all the way through and just walk in the summertime, walk to the McGregor Library, and then, walk back to another library in the summer. And I know the kids are desperately in need of having all of the libraries hours extended. Over the some of the recreation centers are closing or have closed, and so there's not much for them to do. I had someone on my show about a week or two ago from PAL, the Police Athletic League, and they do such a tremendous job with the kids in the summer. It's a 100% volunteer organization. The games are free for the community to attend. They just need more community support. Maybe you might be able to put something up on your website, on your Wayne County Commissioner website about PAL League and PAL games because they're free for the community. It's something for folks just to come out and have fun. Some good, honest fun. So, what's next on your to-do list? Things that you would like to see accomplished?
Well, let me just say that as mayor of Highland Park, we had a great PAL program, so I am well aware of what PAL does and that, and have some great former athletes that have come in to help. So there are a number of things, and I'm sure that maybe some of the legislators do have it on their website. I don't do a lot on the websites.
Oh, I'm just talking about promoting PAL,
Oh,
just in
well, I
general.
promote PAL every
Yes,
day.
absolutely,
All right.
absolutely.
I promote
Yes.
children. I have a foundation that I help my seniors and my young people.
Well, let's talk about your foundation. What's the name of it?
The M.G. Scott Foundation.
Okay. And what is the mission of the MG Scott Foundation?
Just what I said. That's to help my seniors and my young people. When I was in the legislature, I authored the Sojourner Truth bill and Juneteenth as a double bill,
Okay.
signed into law by Governor Jennifer Granholm.
Okay.
And that was about 9 or 10 years ago that we started this foundation, and that was why I started it. So for the Sojourner Truth, it's a holiday, and that's what the bill is. It's a holiday bill for both. November 26th is the day she died. And so that's when we celebrate her around that time. And but that particular day is a holiday. And Juneteenth is the third Saturday in June. And that's why you saw a lot of activities the third Saturday in June. In fact, I worked with St. John's Hospital. They did, and I think it was probably a third or fourth Juneteenth day. And what they did, they had health fair over on Outer Drive and Van Dyke, right there at the center that was the old Holy Cross Hospital.
Yes.
Right there on the outside lawn, and had many people come out. And I brought my package of my bill so that people could really read it and understand what the bill was about. And so we celebrated Juneteenth there. But in November, we celebrate Sojourner Truth. And I do that through my high schools. I send out letters to all of my high schools asking them to write an essay on her.
Okay.
And I have a luncheon. And at this luncheon, there's usually 3 top prizes that we give to the students, first, second, and third prize. But last year we had so many, we gave 5 away. And so we got 40 alone just from Hamtramck.
Wow.
Yeah. So they can learn about this lady. But, that's a multicultural city, and a number of them come from Bosnia, where life has not been that great there, and Bangladesh. And so they are willing to research and write about a woman called Sojourner Truth.
Now, Sojourner Truth, many of you who may know a little bit about African American history, was the woman who said, "Ain't I a woman?" And her poem, "Ain't I a Woman," was a very powerful piece about, she could do whatever a man had to do when she was on her own and she had to do it herself.
She could do it better.
There you go. Sojourner Truth. And I think she was struck on the head as a young woman by one of the slave masters or something like that.
She was struck so many times. She was
Yeah,
beaten.
absolutely, absolutely. But her temerity, her just her willingness to fight for her people and be a good representation. and I think she was buried in Battle Creek.
That's right.
Correct. And we should all remember Sojourner Truth. I mean, I think Isabella Bumfrey. Is that correct?
That's right.
As I recall, I just love African American history. That's why I couldn't wait to have Martha Scott on my show to talk about anything and everything around the Detroit metro area that she could remember, because we call it oral history. And a lot of times we miss some of those stories about Black Bottoms and which stores were there, which stores Sonny used to own, and what shops were there, and where people would, go and maybe the candy. I remember the candy store where cookies and little candies were a penny. You could go down there for a quarter on Lumpkin and Modern at Miss House. That was her name, Mrs. House. And she had a store right around the corner from Farmer Jack. She had a house, but then she had a storefront in her house. And she would sell the candy right there at her counter. And for a quarter you can go get a little brown bag, and you just seem like you just kind of just eat forever off a
Life
quarter.
was different.
Life was different at the candy store in the candy store days. And also in the 1970s, I'm sorry, in 1967, I wanted to talk about the riot, because some folks have said that there's going to be some type of commemoration about the riots. This is going to be the 50th anniversary since the riots, or something like that, since 67. I think it will be. I was in the womb in July. I was born November of 67. But I promise you, I thought I heard some people talking about put it in the garage, put it in the garage, hurry up, put it in the garage.
Well, I was working at Michigan Bell at the time.
In 67. And do you recall the tanks and all of that? What are some of your vivid memories of
Of course.
going past Michigan Bell?
Well, I didn't see them just actually going past Michigan Bell, but I did see a few tanks around.
And what were some of your other vivid memories? Did you see, for example, some of the rioting that took place, on 12th Street? Do you know the story about what happened? What could you share with us about 67 riot as a
Well,
reminiscence?
well, I remember my brother called me and told me that they were rioting on 12th, and it was a Sunday morning, and not to go to church that morning. And I said, it couldn't be that bad. So I took the bus anyway. And I did see a lot of stuff that morning on my way to church
And what church was that?
at Russell Street, the same church that I belong to today.
Wow, at the same location?
Not exactly at the same location, but the same area there.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. I had a good time there this past Sunday at Russell Street Baptist when I heard that it would be the 100th anniversary since 1916 to 2016, and then the 80 something anniversary of the Usher Board. I had to go because of that. I told you I've never met a historical landmark that I didn't like. We're going to pay some bills. We'll be right back on 96 West with Martha G. Scott. Thank you. We're back live in the studio at 160 Victor Street, Watkins Broadcasting. I'm your host, Burgess Foster of 96 West. We have with us the inimitable Martha G. Scott, the First Lady of Highland Park. We've been talking a lot about some of the reminiscences of Martha G. Scott, from the riot to her election, her first election as mayor of the city of Highland Park, the first female mayor in the state of Michigan. Just making historical milestone after milestone. Currently now a county commissioner. Any closing
First
remarks?
black woman elected mayor of a major city.
Yes.
Yes. There was a black woman that was appointed before me, but I was the first elected.
Yes. Now, also, in closing, we have about 30 seconds, I guess. Can you tell us anything else about the coffee group meeting up again?
Well, I've been doing coffee hours now for probably about 20 years. I used to do them every Monday morning when I had a larger district, but now I just do them
In Hamtramck.
Hamtramck, sort of in the center of my district so that people can come.
Please.
And that's every fourth Monday at Main Street Restaurant.
You got it. From Martha G.
From
Scott.
9 till 10.
From 9 to 10. Thank you for joining us on 96 West, a free way of thinking.